The morning sun rose over the quiet town, painting golden light on streets that hid dark secrets. A young boy walked alone, clutching his torn backpack, his heart pounding louder than his footsteps. Ahead, the school gate stood tall, but so did the stairs that followed him. Whispers turned to insults. Fear turned to anger. He had only come to learn, yet every step felt like a crime. What happened next would expose the truth this town had buried for years, and test just how much hate a child could endure. The boy's name was Malik, only 12 years old, yet already familiar with the weight of being different. His mother had moved them to this quiet southern town, believing it would offer safety, good schools, and a fresh start. But the welcome was cold. Each morning, Malik walked the same long road to school, past rusted fences, shuttered shops, and the same group of men who stared at him like an intruder in their world. At school, his seat was always the last to be filled, his lunch table always the first to empty. Teachers smiled politely, but their eyes avoided his when trouble started. Books were thrown, names were whispered, and every lesson reminded him that knowledge came with a price. Still, Malik carried himself with quiet pride. His mother's words echoed in his mind. "Don't let them change who you are." She worked double shifts, saving every dollar for his education, believing that one day his mind would take him far from the bitterness surrounding them. Yet, beneath the surface of that small town, resentment simmered, waiting for a reason to boil over. And Malik, with his unshakable courage and unyielding hope, unknowingly became the spark. Jobs. The first real trouble began on a Thursday morning. Malik arrived early for science class, eager to see his name on the honor roll board. He had worked for it. Late nights, worn-out pencils, pages filled with dreams. But when he reached the hallway, the board was covered in red spray paint. His name was crossed out, replaced by a single word: outsider. The laughter came next, soft at first, then louder, crueler. A group of older boys stood nearby, their sneakers squeaking on the polished floor. Malik didn't say a word. He quietly wiped the paint off the glass with his sleeve, his heart heavy but his head held high. By lunchtime, the whispers had spread. Some said he didn't belong in the advanced class. Others said his grades were a mistake. Even the teachers seemed uncomfortable, offering silence instead of support. That afternoon, Malik's teacher announced a group project. The room fell silent when his name was called. No one volunteered to work with him. Finally, one boy raised his hand, not out of kindness, but mockery. Malik noticed the smirk, the exchange of looks, but agreed anyway. He refused to give them the satisfaction of seeing him break. Days passed, and the tension grew thicker. His project partner started leaving him out of meetings, submitting incomplete work, then blaming Malik for the failures. The principal called his mother in, questioning his attitude and fit for the school's environment. Malik's mother sat quietly, holding her son's hand as her eyes filled with both pride and pain. The breaking point came one rainy afternoon. Malik stayed late to collect his books after class, only to find his locker open, its contents scattered across the wet floor. Torn notebooks, soaked essays, and a photo of him and his mother ripped down the middle. For a long moment he just stood there. No tears, no words, only silence. That night, as thunder rolled outside, Malik stared at the ceiling, replaying every insult, every stare, every moment of being told he didn't belong. Something inside him shifted, not anger, but resolve. He realized that silence protected no one. The next morning, he decided to act, and that decision would set off a chain of events the town would never forget. Every number. The next morning, Malik walked into school carrying something new. Not fear, not shame, but quiet determination. He had written an essay for the town's annual Community Pride contest. The topic was, "What makes us equal?" Most saw it as just another assignment. For Malik, it was his truth, a voice he had kept buried too long. When the assembly began, whispers filled the gym. Teachers, parents, and students gathered as the finalists were called on stage. Malik's name echoed through the speakers, followed by a hush that rippled through the crowd. Some smirked, others rolled their eyes. But Malik stepped forward anyway, his hands trembling slightly as he unfolded the paper. His voice was calm at first. He spoke about kindness, about the courage it takes to see someone as human instead of different. Then his words grew stronger. He talked about the walls people build, not of brick, but of fear. About how a child can feel invisible in a room full of eyes. About how silence can wound deeper than hate. Every sentence cut through the air like thunder. By the time he finished, the room was utterly still. Even those who once mocked him couldn't look away. Then from the back of the gym, someone clapped, just once, then another, and another. Within seconds, the sound grew louder until the entire hall was standing. Not everyone clapped out of pride, some out of guilt, others out of realization. But for the first time, Malik wasn't alone. That day, he didn't win the contest, but he won something far greater. He broke through the silence that had chained the town for years. In the days that followed, the town couldn't stop talking about Malik's speech. Some praised his courage, others questioned his place in the spotlight. But change, real change, is never welcomed easily. The school board released a statement calling his words thought-provoking. The local paper ran a small article, tucked between sports scores and weather reports. But for those who had listened that day, something inside them had shifted. Malik returned to his classes quietly. The same torn backpack slung over his shoulder. The same stares followed him, but they felt different now. Uneasy, uncertain. Some students who once turned away now nodded in greeting. A few teachers offered encouragement in whispers. And though the hallways still echoed with prejudice, the silence that once protected it had been cracked open. One afternoon, as Malik walked home, he passed the same sign that had once made him feel unwelcome. Private property, no trespassing. The paint had faded, the words nearly gone. For the first time, he didn't look away. He stopped, set down his bag, and picked up the torn half of his mother's photo that someone had thrown away weeks ago. He smoothed the edges, placed it back inside his notebook, and smiled faintly. That night, he sat beside his mother at the kitchen table. She listened as he read her the essay again, his voice steady, his eyes brighter. She didn't say a word. The town was quiet. But beneath that silence, something new had begun to grow. Awareness, empathy, and the first fragile roots of change. Because sometimes it takes one voice, steady, unbroken, to remind the world that equality isn't a dream to be chased. It's a truth that demands to be lived.